Hi everyone! I hope you're having a great Thanksgiving. I'm here at my parents' house in Kirkland, Washington, about to sit down with my mom and dad for dinner, and I wanted to take this time to announce my plans to single-hand around Vancouver Island in August of 2022. I've started a list of things that I need to do, and I wanted to go over my timeline and what I plan to accomplish in the next 7 to 8 months. The first thing I need to do is tie up all of the loose ends on my engine. This includes making sure that my engine bed is sound. I discovered that the engine bed is hollow and the sides are made of solid fiberglass that's pretty thick, 3/8 or 7/16, but it's not ideal to have an engine bed that is made of solid fiberglass because solid fiberglass is brittle. That's why there's usually a core material like wood or foam to buffer the vibration of the engine to make sure that the fiberglass doesn't crack. So I got some advice from a friend, and I plan to fill the hollow engine bed with low expansion rate foam. And the reason it's going to be low expansion rate is to make sure that it doesn't enlarge too quickly and cause the engine bed to crack. And once that's filled, that should create enough of a buffer to handle the vibration. Another thing I need to do is check the shaft coupling and make sure that the high temperature thread sealant that I put near the woodruff key and on the set screws is really cured. In the engine room, there can be a lot of moisture and sometimes things take a long time to cure, like the paint I put on the engine bed was still tacky after a month. So I have to make sure that that kind of thing is all ready before I leave. I also need to finish working on the mounts. I almost finished with that, but I didn't quite get them done. I need to get a new fuel hose. I cut the fuel hose a little bit too short when I installed the day tank, and I need to route that from the engine up to the day tank because I will not be using the original keel tank that was being pulled from when I bought the boat because that tank is dirty, and in order to clean that I will need to cut through the floor of the engine bed and into the bilge and take out a piece of fiberglass and clean it that way because there's no access. I don't have time for that before I leave, so the 20-gallon day tank is going to be what I'm using, and then I'll probably take a couple 5-gallon containers of diesel along with me too, which is exactly what I had on my last attempt in 2019. I had a 20-gallon day tank in the stern lazarette with 2 5-gallon cans of diesel, and I discovered that that was more than enough for me. With all the troubles I had, the fuel allocation was not one of them, at least for as far as I had gotten, which was Deepwater Bay, just north of Seymour Narrows. Another thing I need to do with the engine is I need to put a couple things back on, some last things, and I have to check the torque of the bolts in things like the exhaust manifold. I need to get another gasket for the exhaust riser and put that back on. I need to tighten the bolts for the air intake manifold and make sure these are all to the right torque specs. I need to torque the fittings on the Vetus exhaust waterlock muffler, make sure those are torqued correctly, and generally just put everything back together. I need to put the oil and the coolant in the engine. I need to, let's see, what else do I need to do? There are a couple other things I need to do too. And my goal is to generally have all those loose ends tied up by the end of December, because the earliest I can probably book Meredith is sometime in January, and by the time I book her, I really just want her to come out and look at everything I've done, and we can try starting the engine and she can see if I've done everything correctly. I would like to try and align my engine as well as I can before she comes, so that she can just check that too and make sure I did everything correctly. I basically like to feel like I know how to do everything by myself as much as I can, and then I just want her to check all of my work and make sure that I didn't make any mistakes. So once I've got the engine squared away, there are some things that I want to install on my boat and that I need to install on my boat. There are certain systems that I definitely need to install from scratch that I don't have right now that I need to sail around the island. The first one is like routing all of my halyards back to the cockpit and installing a couple new halyards I bought. I bought a jib halyard and a main halyard, warp speed line, which is a core dependent Dyneema cord line. And I need to install a topping lift that I made too out of Dyneema and a cover that I got separately. And I lost my old topping lift inside the mast when I tried to tape the two lines together and install the new one by pulling it through. Lesson learned here, which I deep down already knew but didn't follow, was that in order to avoid losing your lines in the mast, the proper way is to take some good strong wax whipping twine and sew the ends together multiple times before you pull it through. So I just got a little bit cocky and I thought that if I taped it real well it would work, but nope, the tape broke. So I need to install the halyards, and then I got some spin lock deck organizers that I need to install on my deck so that I can route those halyards back to the cockpit. I need to drill some holes in the fiberglass support for the spray shield. All Halberg Rossi sailboats have a shatterproof glass spray shield, and underneath it I need to drill the holes so that the halyards can come through underneath that into the beside the companionway. And in order to drill those holes, the fiberglass supports are kind of at an angle on both sides. So in order to drill them, I'm going to need I'm going to have to put some kind of level gauge, bubble gauge on the drill bit so that I can make sure that I'm drilling those holes perfectly even, because I have no reference point on that fiberglass. So once I've done that and I've got the halyards going back, I bought some Lumar clutches, and I also have a pair of Lumar Ocean Series winches for my secondary winches, which are the ones that go on the sides of the companionway. And they're 2-speed, they're 30s, which are a step up from what's recommended for my size boat, which is really only 16s, which are 1-speeds. But I got a really good deal on them, so I thought why not just size them up a little bit, especially since I'm ultimately aiming to single-hand in the ocean. So having that little bit of extra mechanical advantage really couldn't hurt me in the end. And I think when in doubt, size it up. So that's what I need to do mainly for the rigging. Another thing I need to do is I have a Harken Unit 1 MK4 jib furler that I have not yet installed. I had a pro furl when I bought the boat, but it was in pretty bad shape, so I took it off and I put grommets and hinks into one of my sails to get me by until I could get another furler. So now I've got one, and I just need to buy the extrusions, which I can order through Fisheries Supply. So once I have all that, I plan to install the furler, and I think the bolt rope on my sails is pretty much the same size as the Harken MK4 extrusion profile, but we'll see, and I can make whatever adjustments I need to make on those if necessary. Another thing I got secondhand through a friend of a friend is a monitor wind vane I need to install on the back of my boat. If I can't, that's like one of the last things that I want to do because it's not a top priority. I don't need it. I didn't have anything like that the first time I tried Vancouver Island, and it would be nice to have it, but it's not an absolute necessity. So we'll see how much time I have. I also don't have the mounting base yet for it. For the part that actually is made for my boat model to adapt it to the transom of my boat. So we'll see if I can get that all together in time, and if not, no big deal. I also need to install some of the things that I had on my first attempt in 2019 that I still have in my closet in my childhood bedroom, which is right behind the camera. And that includes my Vesper standalone AIS unit, AIS Watchmate, that had been donated to me for my first attempt in 2019 by Fisheries Supply, so thanks again. I need to install my SunPower solar panels on the stern rail, which I was using last time, and some other things that I have that I need to reinstall, like a 600-foot spool of float line for my stern tie and things like that. I have a couple systems that I need to totally install from scratch that I don't have on my boat that I really need, and I'm going to install these systems gradually throughout the upcoming months as I can buy them. The first system is going to be, I need all new anchor tackle. Right now all I have is some old rope and a fluke, a Danforth anchor, which I do not want to use on a trip like this where I'm going to be anchoring almost every night. And so I'm going to get, first of all, I'm going to get a Rocknet anchor. The anchor I had on my previous attempt 3 years ago was a Mantis 15 kilogram 35-pound anchor. It served me very well. I didn't hardly drag at all on any of the anchorages I was in, and I had that with 180 feet of chain. So both of those together were totally solid. And the reason I want to get a Rockna for this boat is because the bow of this boat, it's 3 inches longer than the Rawson 30, but it's like a smaller, lighter boat. And when I look at the bow and the shape of the bow of my boat, I think Rockna, the metal is thicker, so it's a smaller profile for the same weight, and it just seems like it's going to fit my bow a lot better than the Mantis. And the Rockna is a tried and true design just as much as the Mantis is, so I have no anxiety about that. So I will probably have a Rockna 10 kilogram 22 pound for my boat, which has a 9,250 pound dry weight, unlike compared to my Rawson 30, which had a 12,000 pound dry weight. So it's just about 3/4 of the weight of my previous boat. So I think sizing it down to the 10 kilogram is reasonable, especially since the 15 kilogram was oversized for the Rawson 30 even. And with all of that chain, I plan to install 200 feet of 5/16 inch high test ACO brand chain, and about 300 feet of 8-plate 5/8 inch rope. And I chose the 8-plate over the 3-strand because A, it flakes down and compresses better into the anchor chain locker, so you have so much more room to put more rope in, and also it fits better it works better in a windlass. Typically it shapes itself into more of a square shape in the gypsy, which is really makes it a lot smoother going through the windlass. And for the windlass, I plan to get a Maxwell HRC 10-8 windlass. And the reason I've wanted this windlass for at least a year, probably since my last trip, I've wanted this windlass. And the reason is that there are a few different windlasses that are the same category, and this one outperforms both of the other ones, the Lumar and the Quick. It has a slightly better safe working load. It has a better pull feet per minute. It just has better specs in general, and it feels sturdier and it looks better. It is a horizontal windlass, and the reason I chose that is because I know from my previous boat I had a gigantic manual windlass on that boat, and I did not really feel like I needed more deck space. I felt like my sails I could tack with my jibs just fine with a big windlass on the deck like that, and I don't see any reason why it would be any worse on this boat. I think I would rather have more space in the anchor chain locker below the deck for as much road as I can fit, and sacrifice a little bit of the space above the deck. And so I want to install that. I also like the idea of not having to drill a big hole in my deck in order to fit the windlass motor through the locker. I'm going to have to figure out, since I do have a top opening anchor chain locker that opens on the deck as opposed to from the V-berth, I'm going to have to figure out how to mount that windlass, because I can't mount it on top of the anchor chain locker, which is exactly where the chain and the rope need to go down into. So I'm going to have to mount it behind, I'm either going to have to mount it behind that top opening locker and have some kind of pipe going in on the inside of the V-berth at an angle to go down into the locker, or I'm going to have to cut that hatch on top of the deck like in half, so that half of it can have the windlass on it and not be functional, and then the other half I can still open from if I need to like push around the road or the chain or do anything to access inside of it. So I'm still kind of engineering that and talking to some of the people who own the same boat model that I have and see what they're doing, but I am figuring that out. And another thing I want to get is a Maxwell wireless road counter, and it doesn't only count the road, it also lets you lift and lower the road. And and wireless means that I can basically go anywhere on the boat that I want to go with it. And if you will remember, the reason why I wanted an electric windlass so badly in the first place is because I never want to be in a situation where I'm on a lee shore and I have to raise an anchor where my hand is not able to be on the tiller at the same time I'm raising the anchor, so that I never want to be in a place where I have no control over the steering of my boat. And I realize that even that is not 100% guarantee that I will be protected from drifting into a lee shore, because with really strong currents, like the time it takes for you to go against rocks is very short. So even if I have control of the steering, I could be overtaken by currents, but I can also, now that I've thought about what happened last time, I also know that I can kedge the boat out if I'm too close to a shore and I need to get farther away. And I also plan, when I'm going through the area near Johnstone Strait, like right north of Seymour Narrows, I don't even plan to anchor there this time. I plan to stop at Browns Bay Marina, so that way I can just get going again and leave the dock whenever I want to and not worry about getting drifted into a lee shore. And I will, in those areas, I plan to go to as many marinas as possible so I don't have to anchor in the most risky conditions. And so with a windlass, you also need to have a good dedicated windlass battery. It's not good to use the battery for your engine starter motor. So I'd like to have 3 total battery banks on my boat. I would like to have a windlass battery, a house battery, and a starter battery for my engine. And I would like to have lithium, specifically LiFePO4 batteries for my house, and to start with I would like to get just a 200 amp hour Victron battery for my house bank. And you should not use lithium for your starter motor or your windlass motor, because they're not starter batteries, they are more for like deep cycling, and you shouldn't put that much amperage on a lithium battery because it can destroy that type of battery. So I'm going to get AGM batteries, probably Lifeline, for my engine and my windlass. And because those batteries have 2 different charge profiles, I need to figure out how to charge batteries in a system that has different types of batteries. So one way to do it is to charge the lithium batteries off of a dedicated battery charger, inverter charger. Looking at the Victron Multi-Plus Compact, probably, and then get a DC to DC charger that can trickle charge from the lithium battery to the AGM batteries, just to keep them topped up, since those aren't the batteries I will be using regularly. I will be regularly using my house batteries. And another option is to use only my solar, it'll be August, so I'll have plenty of sun, is to use only my solar panels dedicated for charging the lithium battery, and have my regular charger and my alternator and everything else set up to charge the AGM batteries, so I can have different charging systems. Another thing I could do is get a regulator in the line of my alternator so that I can charge lithium with my engine. So there are a few different options, and I'm probably going to talk more to Victron and just to really get a diagram drawn out. And if anybody else has installed a system with multiple different battery types on their boat, I would love to know what you did and how exactly you did that. There's also the Zentrex charger. I heard there was a charger that just came out that can charge multiple battery types at once, so that's also something I want to look into. Other than that, I think those are the main things, is getting a different battery system, getting an entire anchor tackle set up, and just installing some of the things that I've already got on my boat that I need to install. And there are probably a couple other things that I'm forgetting, but those are the main things that I need to do by August. And I know that when I set my mind to something, I can get a lot of work done really fast. I had way more work to do than this. last time, so I'm not too intimidated by it. I know that if I just focus, I can get a lot of stuff done really fast. I hope you will follow me on this journey over the next 7 or 8 months as I prepare, and I hope to do a lot of filming also while I'm on my trip. Well, I hope you guys had a great Thanksgiving. I'm gonna go eat some deviled eggs and homemade potato salad and pork roast. My mom likes to make pork roast for Thanksgiving because she thinks turkey is too dry. And I'm just fine with that. I like pork roast just as much.
Okay, you got me. Go.
You want to be in my video, Dad?
Sure, I guess so.
Say hi.
Hello. How are you today? How are you feeling?
Great.
Have you had a great day today?
I actually have had a wonderful day. How about you?
Oh, it's been an absolutely wonderful day today.
What did you do?
Oh, I just did a lot of walking and talking, and having a good time with people and making sure everybody was happy. It was great.
Wow, that's a
day.
great way to spend your day.
Yes, it is.
These are good. These cucumbers.
I was wondering what you were doing. Now I can see.
You can see what I've been doing.
Yeah. Did you see it coming out here?
Put that back in. It's
Yes, sir.